Peeps, hope you're doing well. So I want to be chatting a bit about, I suppose, me, but in a in a non-narcissistic fashion. Look at how good I am, right? No, I'm not about that. Obviously, recently, my most recent video has been self-worth linguistics. Now, with this, what I'm trying to achieve, I suppose, the overall idea is for people to help people become better versions of themselves. Now, because I've also been relating this to one of the other videos that I did. One of my buddies actually asked me, "Oh, is that about such and such?" It's like, no, that's an X. That's an X, right? And whereas you gotta understand that, how can I word this properly? You know, people would think that I still have some sort of emotional connection, that I'm still angry at these people for the way things panned out. No. Where the anger comes from, you know, where I'm saying, nah, you ain't changed, bitch, and all this, it's not what they've done to me, right? It's not about that. It's not like I've held this grudge for all this time. It's like, because I see it happen in everyday life in so many different circumstances, and the amount of times that, you know, people that are like that, they're just like that, and there's nothing that you can do. This is what I've been saying. It's like the only one that can start that metamorphosis within yourself is if you have certain bad habits. Now, I'm not saying anything like a psychological disorder. You know, that doesn't come from a place of codependency and self-sabotage, right? That comes purely from a place of they know what they're doing is wrong, right? And it comes down to it when, if they get caught, right? If they get caught out in their silly little games, or they're treating someone badly, or whatever the case may be, you know, for starters, it's the first port of call for them is to start crying, right? And it's not crying that they've done the other person wrong, and how, you know, it's not it's a sympathy cry, but it's not a cry for the person that they've done wrong to. It's a cry that they have been caught, and now that they have to face some sort of consequence for what they've done, right? They're not empathetic in the slightest. Don't confuse that. Neither are they sympathetic. They can pass off as such, but they don't actually mean it. You know, otherwise, you know, it's that thing. In the other video, when I was saying about, you know, the person that keeps on putting their hand in the fire and complaining that it burns, you know, this has been a pattern of behaviour that these people, not well, in this case, like NPDs and BPDs as well, it's a pattern of behaviour. And whereas, yes, it is self-sabotaging, you know, any person that has any real care for the other person that they've upset in one way or another, they could reach that level of empathy and sympathy and greet them with humbleness. But, you know, truth be told, it's like, if you're continuously, if they are continuously doing the same thing over and over, not only to one individual, but to anyone else that they meet, you know, in terms of that scenario, you know, you got to take a step back and just see it for what it is. And it's like, they don't care. You know, they don't care. They have no real intention of changing, because at the end of the day, it actually makes them feel good. It makes them feel good, you know, whether it's they go around, say, being promiscuous, just using that as an example, actually. So say you've got this scenario where they're in a relationship, and we all know the foundations of a relationship. You've got to have, like, honesty, loyalty, trust, respect. you know, all of these things that matter to the average person. But when it comes to them, they don't have any of that. You know, regardless of who you are or how much effort you put into them, they're quite happy to you know, to carry on receiving all the love and the gifts and everything else because, you know, you care about that person. They're quite happy to accept all of that. At the same time, it's not reciprocal. They don't have the same level of respect. They don't have the same. In fact, they have no respect really. You know, because they don't. You know, look at it from what I was saying. They don't respect your boundaries. You know, when I was saying about when they'll start breaking your stuff, and it's that example of, well, they'll do it and it's a test. You know, initially this is usually in like the early stages of a relationship. Oh, I was doing this and I broke such and such. The average person, they're just going to be like, look, I'm really sorry. I'll buy you another one or something like that. And then obviously you're going to, I mean, most people, I mean, I get that there are clumsy people out there. No disrespect intended. Sometimes people are just clumsy, right? There are clumsy people out there who will accidentally, and you know, break something accidentally. And they will be apologetic and they know that they're a bit clumsy and whatever. And so, obviously, the other person's reaction a lot of the time, when you're in that scenario, and I'm not talking about the clumsy person now, I'm going back to the narcissistic person. It comes from a perspective of, right, how much can I get away with? How much damage to their property can I do? How much do they care about their property? And they're gauging it accordingly. And if it's something expensive, sentimental or whatever, and they start firing up at you, or you get a bit larry because, oh yeah, I've had that in the family for XYZ amount of years and it's sentimental, it's irreplaceable, really expensive, whatever. And you've genuinely got the hump because it's broken, not necessarily at the person because it broke, right? They'll then not only lay into you and then start crying and play the victim. It's like, oh, how could you react like this? It's like, they know what they did in the first place. You know, I mean, they did it on purpose to see how you would react, and it's a test in boundaries. You know, see how much they can get away with before you either walk away or react. You know, and again, in a lot of circumstances, in that scenario, your best bet is to walk away. When, you know, and speaking on that kind of a thing, when it comes down to when you're introduced to these people and you hear the stories of all their exes were bad or didn't treat them right, and look, sometimes people do make bad choices, right? That's a thing, right? We've all made bad choices when it comes to potential, air quotes, love partners, whatever. And, you know, for whatever reason, they just weren't compatible. But when it's a case of all of them, or the majority of them, you know, and this is one for the guys, it's like, and I was chatting with my mate about this the other day, you know, a guy's natural instinct is to put the Captain Savaho outfit on and try and be, you know, the best boyfriend that they've ever had. And, you know, for those guys that have been in this scenario, don't feel bad about it, man. It's that, you got to remember, us guys come from a protector-provider instinct. So when we're presented with someone that A, we're really attracted to, and B, we've heard that they've had keyword that one, that they've had a bit of a bad life and many bad experiences and all of their exes treated them, it's almost instinctual. It's almost instinctual for the guy to be like, well, rather than listening to what is being said and taking on the fact that you're next, right? This is what I keep saying. It's like, doesn't matter how much of a good person you are and your absolute bestest intentions, you know, you could be like high up in the church, just for argument's sake, right? You could be like a priest, you're that holy, you're that pure, you know. You get involved with someone like that and it's like, yeah, you're going to be abusive, you're going to be there to the next person. When that relationship breaks down, it's going to be like, nah, you're going to be abusive, you did this, you did that, you did the other, blah blah blah, drag your name through the mud, all of that. But like I say, for guys, it's unless or until you go through these scenarios, which, you know, like I said, a lot of the time I couldn't sit here now and tell you about these things if I hadn't have gone through them. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's in a lot of cases it's devastating. You know, it's you put a lot of time and effort, and like you've built up this future in your mind of what you would like to achieve with this person that you love so much, because you know they've been nothing but mistreated by all their exes, and then you're trying to you're going to work and you're trying to live for this vision that you have. This, maybe it's a family life, or maybe it's just a, you know, a good solid relationship where you're both actually happy, you know, which is what a lot of people just want in life. You know, people just want to be happy and safe and secure and settle and not have to worry about, you know, the usual sort of things. You know, is it like, when I say the usual sort of things, I mean like a lot of modern women by today's standards, you know, that thing of, are they going to cheat? Are they going to start lying? Are they going to start stealing money? Are they going to wait until we've had kids and then, you know, do the man over financially, you know, and all of that, you know, take away everything that the guy had put into that relationship and just have it all taken away. This is what triggers men. This is why, you know, the whole MGTOW is about. You know, it's guys that have been in these scenarios, you know, time after time after time. And this is where my perspective shifted, you know, where it's like, well, hang on. If you're doing the same thing over and over, right, and, you know, a lot of guys would agree with the first part of this, but maybe not necessarily the second, but if you're making the same choices over and over and over, you have to seriously ask yourself the question, is it really the people's fault that you're getting involved with that has put you in these situations? You know, is it their fault, or is it a lack of judgment on your behalf? You know, judgment of character. You know, you're not paying attention to the type of friends that they hang out with. This is what I've been saying recently about the whole, you know, if you're the average of the 5 people that you knock about with, look at the people that you're hanging about with. And if you've got a combination of, I don't know what the word is. It's, I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be right when I do this video, and I don't mean right as in correct and all that. Well, I do mean as in correct, but I don't mean like, I'm not trying to come across as holier than thou, right? Because I've been in situations where people could look at me and be like, well, hang on a second, how can you sit there and say about this, that and the other? The point is I've moved on from that kind of lifestyle. You know, if there was any of these bad habits or bad traits that I had, or people that I've knocked about with, and again, I'll have them as air quotes friends, but I won't be spending a great deal of time with them, because I know the potential of what they can do to me. They can, you know, potentially get me in a situation that I don't necessarily want to be in anymore, because of the consequences that come with hanging out with these type of people, you know, because they will, whether intentional or not, they will pull you back down to that level. And then you've got all the hard work that you've put in to get to where you are, you have to do over and over again, you know, to build yourself back up. And it's like, well, you know, you could sort of say, well, if you do fall into that kind of a situation, it's like, you know, you've got 2 choices. You can stay back down where you started, or you're going to have to put the extra work in and relearn the lesson, as it were, you know, retake class of life and go through all the things, and then get yourself back up onto that higher level again, and then carry on progressing from there. But when it comes down to these situations, when these guys have gotten involved with these people, and it's like, you know, what was it? I can see this just starting a few arguments in people's heads. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, I spent XYZ amount of time with my ex-partner and yada yada, and I did all this and I did all that and I did all the other. And it's like, you know, you've got to seriously consider how much you invest in someone and how much you actually look into their behavioural patterns, you know. And this is a difficult one, because I think, again, it comes down to that thing of, when I was chatting to my mate the other day, I said, look, I looked around, like, I people watch, right? And it's like, a lot of people have got codependencies, myself included, right? We have. It's like, what one of mine, and the reason I sort of bring it up from time to time is like, you know, spending habits. It's not that I go all out and, you know, I'll spend like thousands of pounds on things. Sometimes it's like, oh, just 10, 20 quid here or something like that, just as a like little pick me up. And I don't really need whatever it is that I've bought. It's just like I'm in such a low place, or not such a low place, maybe not. That's not the right way to look at it, but I'm in that situation where it's like, no, I need something to make myself feel good, you know. And sometimes a cigarette doesn't do it. so you'll go and spend, you'll go on Amazon and spend something from 20, 30 quid, or, you know. And I'm not saying it's down to the individual. It's like, what have you got that, you know, how far are you willing to go? You can spend like 200 quid or 2 grand on something that you really don't actually need, but for the sake of making yourself feel better. You know, that's the kind of example where I'm trying to go with that one. But it does come down to these scenarios where, you know, especially with these sort of like, digressing back onto the toxicity of these toxic relationships, you know, it's, again, it comes into like, okay, so you've gone in and you've invested and invested and invested and invested, right? And, oh, I did this, and this is something that you see a lot of guys, you know, going their own way. And I'm not pointing fingers. It's like, look, I get where you're coming from. At the same time, it's like you also participated in that, because even when the other person wasn't, you know, giving back into that relationship as much as what you were, you still continued. You carried on doing that, so that's kind of on you, you know. It's like a bit of personal accountability and responsibility. You know, if someone isn't putting in as much effort into a relationship, or if they're not treating you with the same level of respect as what you treat them, and you're carrying on going back to it, that's not their fault. That's on you. This is what I'm saying. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? It is exactly that. You know. And again, it's with digressing onto the toxic behaviours from toxic people, NPDs, and this kind of a thing. You know, when you continuously keep going back, because, you know, a lot of the time people get stuck in these trauma bonds, whereas you have an argument, things will go well for a while, you know, so, oh yeah, you're both apologetic and all of this, and then you get back into it again, and then you'll have another row, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, you know, because, you know, from, without sounding disrespectful, but from a codependence point of view, you know, like I said in the example in my video, it's like, well, can't we do something that I want to do from time to time? And that wasn't to be a thing, because they didn't value me and what I brought to the relationship. You know, it was all about them. This is what I'm saying. It's like, and they've got no remorse for it either. It's just literally a case of, you're not as important as them. You know, and they're very good at reconciling as well. You know, whereas in like, they can how can I say it? They can level the field, right? So it's like, they'll point out the things that you did wrong. Oh yeah, well, you spoke to me like this, or you said that, or you said the other. And at the same time, well, I shouldn't have done this. And it's like, it is just another manipulation, because they know that is what they have to do to keep getting the other person to come back. You know, it's breadcrumbing, literally just breadcrumbing. And then, so of course you get that side of the trauma bond. And again, because codependency is an addiction, so that becomes a psychological addiction, because you know that after that argument has happened, you're going to have a wonderful time for a little while, right? And, you know, whether it's the love bombing followed by the sex bombing that you enjoy, or, you know, the going out and maybe even going out and spending a bit of money, you know, because, oh yeah, it makes you both feel good. And again, it will come down to that, when that relationship does come to the grand finale, and that's it, there's no going back, they're actually discarding you for good. By the way, when they do that, it's because they've got someone else, right? The reason when it's the grand finale and there's no mediation anymore, And this is something that usually gets flipped on its head as well, especially if you're the one calling the shot, which again, they'll go as far as cheating on the other person, on a new person that they're with, and still string you along. Whilst, I mean, generally they tend to hide the fact that they've got someone else there, right? They won't tell you about that, but they'll still string you along, and then the sole purpose of that is just to destroy you one more time, because they've already got another source of supply. And at the same time, whilst they're with that source of supply, they're also testing their boundaries, and basically the whole relationship that you had with them is being repeated with that person. And if it doesn't work out with that person, they'll either come back to you if you haven't done all the block, not talking to you no more, all of that. You know, you seriously, you got to be serious about that. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you block them on your phone. You go no contact, full no contact. Because as soon as they start running out of supply, if they haven't got anyone else around them nearby that they can pull the same scenario on, they're going to come. They'll go back to the last person that they were with, or maybe not even necessarily the last person, but the people that they consider to be the weakest of the group, or of the list of exes that they have had. You know, this is why you might not hear from them, and then one day out, if you haven't blocked them, then out of the blue you'll get a happy birthday, happy new year, Merry Christmas, oh, I was thinking about you, all of this. It's not coming from a place of, oh, they're wishing you happy birthday. It's testing the water because they want to befriend you, because they haven't got anything else. You know, these people thrive off of making themselves feel important by destroying other people's lives. You know, it's what it comes down to. And again, when it gets as serious as, you know, someone's being admitted into a mental facility because they've driven the other person crazy, because this does happen, it is a thing, or, you know, whether they've got them on the what's it called, on the list of people that are being watched because they're going to hurt themselves in a serious way that there's no coming back from. Yeah. Again, they'll tell all the friends, and they'll try and soak up the pity from that. And it's not that they're feeling bad about what they've done because they've put that person in that situation in the first place. It's just the pity for them. It's, oh, woe is me. And it's like, no, woe is the person that you've done this to, man. And it's like, if you can't see through that, right? If you can't take a step back at a situation, because, and this is difficult, especially for people that have known these people for a long, long time, and they haven't actually ever picked up on the red flags, on their toxic behaviours. You know, a lot of the time they'll defend them, like unknowingly and unwillingly. Then, of course, you know, as time progresses, they'll find out the truth. But by that point, it's too late. It's like, you know, you've wasted 5, 10, 15 years of your life with someone that is their modus operandi. That is how they work. That is how they live their life. It's literally like they are energy, and they're just vampires, right? And I don't mean that in the nicest way that I'd like to mean it in. They just suck the life out of you. You know, and they don't have anyone's best intentions at heart other than their own. And I suppose to kind of bring this to a close, because I'm sure sometimes people think, well, you know, how, like, maybe some of the people that I know wonder, well, how do I know so much about this? And it comes down to that of understanding people that come from a place of having genuine depression, and people that say that they've got depression and the reason as to why they're saying it, right? When I was in that toxic relationship, because I'm such a caring person, and I'm not saying that to blow me trumpet. I mean that, like, legitimately. I care about my friends. I care the friends that are worth caring about. Sorry, I'll be a bit precise about that one. Not my associates, my actual friends, right? And I want them to do better in all of this. You know, the ones that I care about, right? Well, in that scenario, because I was still, I suppose, under the spell, as it were, I was still under the spell of, oh, this person has depression and look how bad their life is, and it's all of this, and I wasn't given any leeway as to maybe why their life is the way that it is, that maybe there's some accountability that they need to be taking. And so I came from that place of, I spoke about this in my last video, of cognitive dissonance and Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome, I covered cognitive dissonance in the last video. Stockholm Syndrome is basically you're in a kidnap situation and you end up feeling sorry for the people kidnapping you, even though they've actually not got your best interest at heart. Right? They've kidnapped you for a reason. They probably won't mind doing horrible things to you for the sake of financial gain, usually, where that is a thing. But that's Stockholm Syndrome. And so that's where I was at. And it is a combination of like Stockholm Syndrome and cognitive dissonance, where I know that the way I was being treated wasn't right, and I felt sorry for them for doing it. Right, and this is there's no shame for anyone that's been in this scenario. There's no shame. It is normal. The important part is that you pull yourself out of that, take a step back from being a subjective in that situation and be objective to it, you know. And then my point of view is like, right, well, I needed to understand people with BPD, because you kind of there's a combination of things that actually gave it away. One of it was the occult, if that's what we're going to call it, which was like tarot cards, and me getting a understanding of what was going on back then, because it's like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, one minute she loves me, the next minute like she hates me, and all of this, and it's like, what the fuck? And it was the actual tarot reading that came back through, and it was telling me narcissism. So then I had to go into studying psychology, not on a professional level, I might add, but getting involved in psychology, getting the gist of the DSM and the patterns of behaviours from NPDs and BPDs and all of this. And this was all in the name of me wanting to help this other person. Like, make, you know, like there's got to be something I can do. And then the more I was reading and the more I understood it, and then in the end you come to the realisation that it doesn't matter what you do, right? Even despite all the knowledge that I had gained then, and obviously that I've progressed since, because I've met more people and seen more scenarios, and you know, it's not that I'm running around going, oh yeah, they're narcissists, they're narcissists. No. You look at patterns of behaviour, and you know, I'm quite analytical like that. And you know, you just realise that they're just toxic, and that they don't have your best intentions at heart. The people that they surround themselves with, there's no loyalty or honour or anything like that amongst them. It's literally all about them. And it didn't matter, you know, even though from my heart of hearts I really wanted to help that person get through their bullshit, because I still wanted that long term with them. But the truth be told, I was just going to be stuck in that cycle. It's just a rinse and repeat, you know. And you know, this is, you know, it can go one way or the other. You can find yourself in a situation where eventually you snap, and then, you know, worst case scenario, you end up on a physical assault sort of a thing. Or you end up, you know, driving your car up to the side of a bridge one night and deciding that's it, you know. Or you end up in the mental facility because you're thinking about hurting yourself, you know. All the while, they're all right. They've probably got someone else. They've got someone else that they're doing the exact same shit of what they were doing to you. They're doing it to someone else, you know. And again, all this comes, all my knowledge, all the reason I know so much about it, and I'm not a professional by any standard, don't be confusing. But it's understanding. It's the understanding and the studying that I did. You know, not all of it came from, you know, because I see people question, oh, how do you know so much? And it's like, well, if you look at society now, the majority of people, you know, they're far too entertained with the silly stuff on TikTok the stupid little shorts on Facebook. Some of them are probably really useful, and I've said this before, and I'm not insulting people or taking the piss out of people that watch TikTok and Facebook shorts. Some of them are really good, some of them are really informative, some of them are for entertainment. But at the same, it's like if you want to have a level of understanding, you have to really question as to whether you're going to sit. It's like the same as, you apply to go to university and you're sitting down watching cartoons all day. Do you think you're going to pass the course by the end of it? No, not if you're sat there watching TV all day long. But this is just it. It did come about putting the effort in. That is why I know so much about it. This is why professionals are professionals. I mean, I've spent probably as much time as professionals and been subject to the scenarios that they've studied in books. But the thing is, the studies that they do in books, a lot of the time, it doesn't show the effect that it has on the individual that is actually in these situations, or both the individuals, in fact, that are in these situations. So yeah, it's okay studying it from afar, but unless you've experienced it, sorry, not sorry, you're not a professional. It's like you might have a certificate or an award or a diploma or whatever, and it's like, unless you've lived that, unless you've been through it and you've come out the other side, stronger, more knowledgeable and all this, right, because you've actually, for the wrong reasons, you wanted to help the other person. It's like, no, this person has not got my best interest at heart, but yeah, anyway. So I seem to have a bit of a shade come on there. What's that about? What's this? Excuse me. Or is that just where? Is that the light? Maybe it's the light. Who knows? Can we have less of the strange things happening, please? I've had enough of that. Thank you. Anyway. But yeah. Anyway, thoughts, comments and opinions, feel free to jot them down. I'll be doing probably a couple of videos as time progresses. So until the next one, stay cool, stay free, peace out.